moment you justify yourself, you lose power. Not slowly, not eventually, immediately. The instant you start explaining why you did what you did, why you meant well, why it wasn't really your fault, you have already handed control to the other person. Because justification is not communication. It is submission. It is the silent admission that someone else has the right to judge you, to question you, to place you on trial. Most people don't realize this is happening. They think they are being reasonable. They think they are clearing things up. But what they are really doing is shrinking in real time. Watch closely the next time someone accuses you. The heat in your chest, the urgency in your voice, that desperate need to be understood. That is not truth trying to escape. That is power leaving your body. And once you train people that you will explain yourself on command, they never stop demanding it. If this makes you uncomfortable, good. It means you're about to see something you were never meant to notice. Stay with me. Not because I'm asking, but because once you understand how power is really taken from you, you don't go back. You were trained to do this long before you were aware of it. Before you had language for power, before you understood hierarchy, before you could even name the feeling in your chest. As a child, whenever an accusation appeared, there was only one escape route available to you: explanation. You learned quickly that silence was dangerous and justification was safety. I didn't mean to. It wasn't like that. Let me explain. Every time you spoke, the pressure eased. Every time you justified yourself, punishment softened. And without realizing it, your nervous system locked this in as truth. Explain or lose security. Speak or suffer. But here is what nobody told you. You grew up. The authority figures disappeared. The classroom ended. The courtroom dissolved. And yet, your body never updated the software. So now, every time a boss questions you, a partner challenges you, or a stranger implies you are wrong, your system reacts as if your survival is on the line. Your mouth opens before your mind decides. You rush to clarify. You pile on context. You offer reasons no one asked for. And in doing so, you recreate a hierarchy that does not need to exist. Because justification is not neutral. It is not polite. It is not mature. Justification is a declaration of position. When you justify yourself, you are announcing that the other person is above you in the chain, that they are entitled to an explanation, that their perception outranks your internal certainty. You may not say this out loud, but your behavior says it for you, loudly, publicly, repeatedly. And people are very good at reading behavior, better than they are at listening to words. This is why some people seem untouchable. You've seen them. They get accused, and nothing in them moves. No rush, no panic, no verbal scrambling. They don't hurry to correct the narrative. They don't chase understanding. And somehow, the accusation dies in the air. The same words that would spiral you into defense bounce off them like they were never spoken. This is not because they are always right. It's because they refuse the frame being offered to them. Every accusation carries a hidden structure, a question beneath the words. Explain yourself. And the moment you answer that unspoken demand, you step into a role you didn't choose. The defendant, the accused, the one who must earn neutrality. From there, everything you say sounds like pleading, even if it's logical, even if it's factual, even if it's true. Because truth does not dominate. Frame does. And the person who sets the frame decides what matters. This is the part most people miss. Power is not taken from you through force. It is taken through participation. No one can strip you of power unless you agree to the rules of the interaction. And justification is agreement. Agreement to be evaluated. Agreement to be measured. Agreement to be smaller than the moment. You think you are protecting yourself, but what you are really doing is teaching others how to access you, where to press, how to provoke a reaction on demand. Watch how quickly this escalates. The first time you justify yourself, it feels harmless, reasonable. The second time, expected. By the third time, demanded. And eventually, people don't even bother accusing you properly anymore. They imply, they raise an eyebrow, they sigh, and you jump in with an explanation before the sentence is finished. That's when power has fully left the room, not because they are stronger, but because you trained them. And here is the uncomfortable truth. The urge to justify has nothing to do with them. It comes from inside you, from the need to be seen as good, as competent, as fair, as reasonable. You are not trying to convince them. You are trying to soothe yourself. To quiet the internal voice that says, "What if they're right?" That voice is the real enemy. And until you confront it, no technique will save you. Silence will feel unbearable. Stillness will feel like death. This is why the first step is not tactical. It is internal. You have to accept that being misunderstood will happen, that people will project, that some narratives will remain incorrect, and that none of this is fatal. The moment you stop equating explanation with safety, the spell begins to break. The moment you allow discomfort without rushing to fix it, something shifts. Not in them, in you. And once that shift happens, justification stops feeling necessary. It starts feeling beneath you. Once you stop justifying internally, silence becomes possible externally. And silence is not passive. Silence is not weakness. Silence is pressure without effort. When someone throws an accusation at you and you don't immediately respond, something strange happens in the room. The air tightens, the rhythm breaks. They were expecting movement, resistance, explanation. Instead, they get nothing. And the human mind hates nothing. It rushes to fill the gap, to restore equilibrium, to regain control. That discomfort you feel in silence is the same discomfort they now feel amplified. This is where most people fail. They interpret silence as losing. They think whoever speaks last is weak. That is backwards. In any confrontation, the one who reacts is already behind. Reaction means you are responding to their move instead of standing in your own position. Silence removes you from their script. It denies them the feedback loop they need to continue. Without resistance, their attack has nowhere to land. It passes straight through you, leaving them exposed and off balance. Pay attention to what happens next. They start talking again. They soften the accusation. They add qualifiers. "I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying." You don't have to get defensive. Notice the irony. You said nothing, yet now they are defending themselves against your quiet. This is the moment power shifts. Not because you out-argued them, but because you refused to play the role they assigned you. You didn't become the defendant. You stayed unmovable. Silence works because it reveals intent. If the other person wanted clarity, they would ask questions. If they wanted resolution, they would slow down. But when someone attacks and grows uncomfortable with your silence, it exposes that they were seeking dominance, not understanding. Your stillness turns their aggression into something visible, awkward, unjustified. Suddenly, they are the one who looks excessive, emotional, unstable. You didn't accuse them of anything. You simply let them watch themselves. This requires control, because inside you, your ego is screaming. It wants to explain. It wants to correct the record. It wants to prove innocence. That urge is the last remnant of the old conditioning. The child who believes safety comes from being understood. You have to override that impulse consciously. You have to let the discomfort burn without acting on it. This is not suppression. This is mastery. You are not swallowing words. You are choosing not to donate them to someone who hasn't earned them. And here's the deeper layer. When you stay silent, you reveal nothing. No values. No insecurities. No buttons. When you defend yourself, you expose exactly where to hit you next time. I'm not lazy. Now they know effort matters to you. I'm not a bad person. Now they know morality is your weak spot. Silence is opaque. It gives no data. And in any power dynamic, the person with less information exposed holds the advantage. This is why the most dangerous people are unreadable. Not cold, not rude, just internally settled. They don't rush to be seen correctly. They don't manage perceptions. They let others carry the weight of their own interpretations. That calm is not an act. It comes from knowing that accusations don't define reality. They are attempts, tests, probes, and every probe that meets nothing loses strength. Eventually, something else happens. The silence stops feeling like a tactic and starts feeling natural. You realize you don't owe immediacy. You don't owe access. You don't owe emotional labor to anyone who throws tension at you. The power was never in the response. It was in the restraint. And once you experience how quickly silence collapses false authority, you stop fearing it. You begin to trust it. And from that point on, words become a choice, not a reflex. Once silence establishes that you are not available for domination, words return, but on your terms. This is where most people make a second mistake. They think the next step is to attack back, to push harder, to assert. That only recreates the same low-status dance in reverse. True control doesn't come from resistance. It comes from misalignment. When someone throws an accusation at you and you meet it with agreement, calm, exaggerated, almost amused agreement, you collapse the structure they were standing on. Their power depended on your denial. Without it, they lose traction. This is the logic behind agree and amplify. Not agreement as submission, but agreement as exposure. When someone calls you greedy, obsessed, selfish, dramatic, your instinct is to correct the record, to explain nuance. Instead, you lean into it just far enough that the accusation becomes ridiculous. You accept the label so completely that it breaks under its own weight. Not loudly, not playfully, dryly, casually, as if it never mattered. The humor isn't for them, it's for the frame. And the frame shifts instantly. What this does psychologically is devastating. The attacker expected friction. They expected denial. They expected emotional energy to push against. Instead, they get confirmation without shame. Their weapon disappears. Now they have to explain why they're upset about something you clearly aren't. They wanted to make you smaller. You made the accusation small instead. That reversal creates cognitive dissonance, and dissonance is uncomfortable. People retreat from it quickly. Either they escalate emotionally, revealing instability, or they back off. Either way, you win without effort. Then come the labels. Labels are control devices: lazy, arrogant, selfish, incompetent. Labels are meant to freeze you into a position so you can be handled more easily. Most people fight labels because they feel permanent. But permanence is the illusion. When you mock a label instead of rejecting it, you dissolve its authority. If that's how you see it, sure, if you want to call it that. You're not agreeing. You're not disagreeing. You're refusing to treat the label as meaningful. And meaning is where power lives. At this point, something subtle happens. The interaction stops being about you. The focus drifts. The spotlight moves. And this is where role reversal becomes inevitable. When someone keeps pressing, questioning, accusing, you don't answer. You observe. And then you ask, not defensively, not aggressively, but curiously. Why does this matter so much to you? What reaction are you hoping to get? What about this is bothering you? These questions are not traps. They are mirrors. And most people are deeply uncomfortable seeing themselves clearly. The moment you ask a question like that, the hierarchy flips. Now they are explaining. Now they are justifying. Now they are searching for words. You didn't demand anything. You didn't accuse. You simply shifted the axis of attention from your behavior to their emotional investment. And suddenly, the original accusation feels thin, excessive, out of place. Because when someone truly has authority, they don't need emotional intensity. They don't need pressure. They state facts and move on. Emotion reveals insecurity, not power. This technique works because it aligns with reality. If someone is genuinely concerned, they welcome calm inquiry. If someone is manipulating, they resent it. They wanted compliance, not clarity. By refusing to defend and refusing to attack, you expose which one it is. And once exposed, manipulation loses its effectiveness. It thrives in chaos and reaction. It dies in observation and stillness. You are no longer inside the exchange. You are above it, watching it unfold. By now, you may notice something changing in you. The urge to be understood weakens. The need to correct fades. You stop measuring your worth through other people's interpretations. This isn't arrogance. It's alignment. You're no longer outsourcing your stability. And when that happens, interactions simplify. Accusations become noise. Labels become suggestions. Questions become optional. You speak when it serves you. You stay silent when it doesn't. And that discretion, that selectiveness, is what finally separates those who are controlled from those who cannot be moved. At this stage, the real work begins. Because no technique works if a part of you still believes the accusation might be true. The reason words cut you is not because they are sharp. It's because they land on something tender, something unexamined. When someone calls you selfish and it enrages you, it's not their opinion that hurts, it's your uncertainty. The places where you feel exposed are the places you haven't owned yet. And as long as you haven't owned them, others can use them against you. This is why the ultimate defense is not silence, humor, or role reversal. It is self-knowledge. When you know exactly what you are capable of, good and bad, accusations lose their sting. You stop trying to appear pure. You stop trying to appear consistent. You stop trying to be misinterpreted proof. A person who has accepted their shadow cannot be shamed with it. When someone says you are difficult, you don't flinch. When they say you are cold, you nod internally. Of course you are. At times, you're human. There is nothing to expose because nothing is hidden. This integration changes everything. You no longer rush to prove you are good because you are no longer terrified of being seen as flawed. You understand that power does not come from perfection. It comes from ownership, from coherence, from the quiet certainty that you don't need permission to exist as you are. When that certainty is present, people feel it immediately. They stop pushing. They stop testing. Not because you demanded respect, but because there is no opening left to exploit. This is what it means to become untouchable. Not hardened, not closed, transparent. When nothing inside you is denied, nothing outside can penetrate. Accusations pass through you like wind through an open window. They don't stick. They don't linger. You don't replay them later in your head. You don't construct imaginary arguments in the shower. There is nothing to resolve. You heard the words. You felt nothing attach, and you moved on. Now comes the final step, the behavioral lock-in. For the next 7 days, you do not justify yourself at all. If you're late, you say you're late. If you forget, you say you forgot. If someone misunderstands you, you let them. You will feel discomfort, strong discomfort. Your body will urge you to explain, to soften, to clarify. Let it urge. Do nothing. Sit in the sensation and watch it fade. Every time you resist the impulse, you weaken the old conditioning and strengthen the new one. Pay attention to what happens around you. People will pause. They will fill the silence. They will project less. Some will grow uneasy. Some will grow respectful. Some will reveal themselves completely. This is information. This is clarity. You are no longer managing perceptions. You are observing reality. And reality, when unfiltered, is far more useful than approval. Eventually, something profound shifts. You stop feeling like you are moving through a hostile world that needs to be negotiated. You realize most power struggles only exist because you participate in them. When you stop, they dissolve. You don't need to win arguments you never enter. You don't need to defend identities you never outsourced. You become lighter, quieter, more precise, and paradoxically, more influential. If this way of moving through the world feels unfamiliar, that's because it is. You were never taught it. You were trained to justify, to explain, to earn safety through compliance. Now you know better. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. Some people will hear this and return to old habits. Others will recognize themselves in it and never unsee it again. If you're in the second group, you already know why you're here, and you know what to do next.